got your time, Jeff.
Alright, I am Jeff Bloomquist, and today I'll be informing you about agriculture. If you put on an article of clothing or ate any food today, you should probably thank the farmer, because they provide for most of that today. And by the end of the speech, you'll know more about how agriculture first began, how it is important today, and where it's heading for the future. I believe it's very important that people should probably pay attention to their agriculture communities, because a lot of people don't know that their food was grown. They just think it came from a grocery store, which I think is kind of pathetic, really. And so with that being said, we should start where agriculture first took place. They think it started between about 10 and 12,000 years ago in the Middle East. They think India now, but they're still not quite sure. They just know it started in the Middle East and that it quickly spread to Europe, Northern Africa, and Asia. As you can see in this picture, they found in Egypt. It looks like we got some cattle pulling a plow with a farmer behind that. So they know it was in Egypt at one point in time, around 10,000 years ago. Back then, it provided a lot more than just for food. They also provided clothing and shelter and tools that they made from the bones. They're not sure what really sparked the move to agriculture, since being a hunter-gatherer was a lot easier than stopping and staying in the same place and growing your own food, because that took a lot of labor and a lot of time instead of just gathering what was already grown and following the herds around. What they think sparked the move was that there's a higher population to take care of, and the climate may have changed, they think, where it started to get warmer and they noticed that more plants were growing, and it just might have been easier just to grow food instead of chase it around. And then also back then, it was part of their social status, where if you had a lot of land and food, you were considered an important, powerful person back then. When they first started, they started to domesticate the plants and animals, and domestication just means adapting plants and animals to live in a human environment and be of use to humans. So back then, what a cow looked like looks nothing similar to what it looks like today, or what corn or rice looks like. Does not look the same at all compared to 10,000 years ago. And once a crop or livestock got adapted to one area, it started to adapt to surrounding areas. So like, if you started growing wheat in India, it will eventually move north and adapt to colder weather or shorter growing season. Some scientists say that it's one of the most important achievements in the human history, because we would not be able to support the populations we have today without agriculture happening. And now that we know how it started, we can move to how important it is today. It provides a nation with a lot of resources other than food. Right now, ethanol and soy biodiesel are becoming a big thing to fuel our cars, because it's a lot cleaner than burning fuel. It's a lot better for the environment, and it's cheaper than buying from overseas. Along with that, we have the safest and cheapest food system in the United States, thanks to the USDA and FDA. With the farm programs that the government provides us for, it'll only cost each family cents per meal, which is a lot cheaper than all the other nations in the world. For the U.S. economy, it has quite a few benefits, actually. It is the nation's largest employer, with over 23 million workers, which accounts for about 15% of the population of the nation. That is bigger than the population of Australia and all the major cities in the U.S. combined. It has a positive trade export, which just means that it exports more agriculture products than it imports, which accounts for about a $34 billion surplus that they export more. And if someone tells you that farmers are taking too much money from the government for subsidies and farm programs, you can just tell them that the U.S. budget for the farm programs barely accounts for 0.5% out of the U.S. budget. So you can just tell them that if they ever get on your butt for that or something. And along with that, Farmers are also known for being examples of moral ethics in the community. They're seen as hard workers, self-disciplined, and self-motivated because they need to be that way for their type of field work that they're in. And since you now know where ag is today, we can now move on to how it's going to be in the future. Right now, the ag industry is facing a lot of pressure from around the world, really, to produce more food with less. The United Nations predicts that by the year 2050, there will be 9 billion people to feed, and we need to produce 70% more food than we do now. And we need to produce 70% more with less products, so we need less water, fertilizers, chemicals, and especially less land, because a lot of the cities are expanding, and in order to expand, they have to build on the farm ground. A lot of the farmers in my area, when they talk about land, they say, get it now because they ain't making any more of it, which is true, because the cities are just taking a lot of it away right now. Another big issue that I think was really important was distribution. We already produce enough food to feed everybody in the world, but we just don't have a very effective way of distributing it. You don't see it so much in the United States or any of the other first world countries, but if you go to second world or third world nations, you really see it bad there. A lot of people are really, really hungry out there. Out of the 6 billion population in the world, approximately 1 billion are undernourished right now. And if it's going to be 9 billion people by 2050, there's probably going to be 1 billion and a half or 2 billion hungry by then. And the third problem we're facing is just finding enough manpower to run the farms, because no one really is interested in agriculture anymore, it seems. There's a lot of kids that don't want to come back to the family farm. Right now, 50% of the farmers are already 55 or older, and they're looking to retire and want to pass the farm on to someone else, but no one wants to come back to the farm anymore. I've seen it personally in my family. I'm the only kid out of 4 that wants to come back to the farm, and a lot of my friends in high school don't want to go back to the ag industry. They're just not interested in it. So some of the solutions they have found for producing more foods, that in the cities they're building these buildings called urban vertical farming, and this is a picture of one what one would look like in the future. They don't have one looking like this now, but they plan to build something similar to this. As you can see, it's got different levels where they grow different types of foods. It's got windmills for energy, and it's got water reservoirs that catches rainwater. So I thought that was pretty interesting when I found that, when the cities may be buying the land, but they're at least putting some of it to good use where they're growing food on top of food. And find enough manpower. Some of the solutions were 4-H and FFA groups. They're out there recruiting kids at a young age, trying to get them interested in agriculture. And also, there's government programs out there to get guaranteed low interest loans for beginning farmers to help them out, because it's very expensive for young guys to start out like us. And of course, the solutions don't end here. There's a lot of solutions out there, a lot of different ideas that people are coming up with. And I hope you learned a lot, because I sure did when I was researching for this. And thanks for watching.